Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
Yahoo!
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
May I present to you the cat?
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Hey!
And we are here to talk all things tech this week. And we also have a special thing that we want to talk about. Since, big sales going on, we want to do a little thing. Normally, what we would usually do is be like, hey, stuff to buy the techie in your life. People that are in your life, they're techies that you want to buy. We usually will do that around this time. But we decided to change it. Let's be real. Caleb decided we should change it. And we changed it to things you shouldn't buy the techie in your life.
Yeah.
Which is a good list.
Yes. I mean, listener, we've done this. We have a Black Friday episode tradition that's been going. This goes back since the beginning of the podcast, right? This is not a new thing for us to do kind of a special shopping oriented episode right before Black Friday. But, we used to go through all the deals at all the retailers, and that was just, I don't feel like providing a whole lot of value. Then we kind of switched up to like, hey, if you know a techie that's specifically like this kind of techie, then here's a list of things you might consider buying that person. But as we've been looking at kind of the tech landscape over the past year and seeing just what's being advertised as being on a Black Friday sale right now, for instance, there's just a lot of things that you shouldn't buy for the techie in your life, even though you're going to see an ad on Facebook that says the techie in your life will love this thing.
Yes. So, we're going to go through a couple of these because, one, a lot of these, Caleb's already seen these ads for the techie in his life.
Oh, yes. Which, of course, is me, but...
Yeah. So, let's start with the first one on this list. So, any subscription to AI, including stuff like Grammarly.
Yeah, this one comes up a lot, particularly Grammarly. But just there's a lot of AI stuff out there right now, listener. And there are a ton right now that are all like, oh yeah, Black Friday deal. You can get the first 3 months for the cost of 1 month, or you get the first 3 months of premium Chat GPT for free or something like that. And the reason that they're doing this is because they want you to waste your money on something that is functionally useless and provides no value. Because they can't figure out any other way to monetize the thing because it is useless and provides no value. So, they're kind of struggling with that. And like, I know that you've probably seen Grammarly and you've thought, wow, but I mean, that seems like a really super useful feature or product. Okay, listen, if the techie in your life that you're thinking of right now, this person that you're all like, but maybe I want to buy them a subscription to Grammarly, if they are currently right now in the editing process of their graduate thesis, then maybe you can get them 1 month of Grammarly. Then they might appreciate that. Otherwise, I can pretty much guarantee you nobody wants it. And you're all like, well, yeah, but the guy I know is a writer. They write all the time. Writers don't use Grammarly. I'm sorry, they don't. Like, as far as writers are concerned, they want an actual pants editor, like a human being, to give them feedback on what they have written, the substance of it, not just the grammar.
Yep.
Like, Microsoft Word's grammar check is good enough for that. So no, like, unless it's specifically somebody working on their graduate thesis, no Grammarly, no subscriptions to AI. The coder in your life doesn't want it. If they're using any AI at all, they're perfectly fine with the free one. And probably they've tried it and gone, wow, the code that it gave me is just straight trash. And so they stopped using it. Like, just don't do it.
Yeah, I agree to that. Any AI. I know we were harping on Grammarly, but
Yeah, but that's because that's the one I've been seeing the most ads for.
Yep.
But to be clear, ChatGPT, I don't think Bing has a subscription mode. Maybe they
no.
do. Is there a subscription version of Copilot? I don't think there is, but I know that there is like a subscription paid version of Gemini, and
The benefits there
there's
is it is a Google One subscription, so it actually does come with more
That's true.
stuff.
that's
but-
true.
Don't buy it because of the AI. Buy it for the extra
Yeah.
Google storage or different things like that.
And then don't tell them that there's AI involved.
Yes.
'Cause it's not actually a selling point. And then there's the other one, the Poly whatever nonsense that's a competitor to ChatGPT that Google has invested in, and there's a couple of other ones out there. Just don't.
Yeah.
Just none of them. They're all the same.
also there is a Copilot subscription. So don't
Is there? Oh, okay. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
I figured the Copilot subscription was just ChatGPT Plus or whatever, you know.
I mean, it probably is. It's just branded differently.
Bingo. so don't do that. Let's move to the next one here. Any product that prominently advertises AI as a feature.
Yes. And this one is specifically because any product that is leaning on AI as the selling feature for that product doesn't actually have any features worth advertising. So don't buy it. Just don't. There's nothing like if it had worthwhile features, that would be in the ad. If
Yep.
it's AI is what they're advertising, it doesn't have worthwhile features. As an example,
The iPhone.
iOS 18. I mean, I wasn't going to say the whole iPhone, but yeah, basically the new iPhones, Apple only advertises those things as having a Apple Intelligence now. And it's like, oh, so just don't buy the new iPhones. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, this goes for everything. You're going to see like friggin' toasters and fetching like microwaves and crap like that. That'll be like, this has AI. Don't buy those. Just don't. Like if you know somebody that needs a toaster or needs a microwave, if you have an option between just a normal toaster and one that says AI on the box, get the normal toaster. Don't get the AI one. I don't know what's wrong with the AI one, but something is.
I'd also be willing to bet that AI in those meanings might mean something completely different.
Probably.
They just
Probably.
happened to find words that had AI at the beginning, so they can advertise it as something with AI, even though it's not what people are calling AI nowadays.
Maybe it's like additional ingredient toaster. I don't know. Don't get it. They just wanted to say AI
to your
because
toast.
that's something. So
I mean, to be clear, there's also no like governing body that is like managing the use of the term AI. Legally, anybody can slap AI on any package for any reason whatsoever and claim that their product has it. And listener, you don't want to buy products that have done that. Because like I said, it means there's no features worth bragging about. It's not going to be a good product. So just nothing that prominently advertises AI as a feature.
yes. So let's move to the next thing. Please do not buy your techie in your life anything smart home related.
Yeah, and this one's kind of a tricky one because there's two reasons for this. Either the techie in your life is like me and is staunchly adverse to anything smart home related because they're concerned about data security or they're concerned about, I don't know, mostly it's data security if we're being honest, botnets and that kind of thing. Or they're really into smart home stuff and they actually do have a ton of smart home stuff, in which case it's going to be fundamentally impossible for you to buy them something that they will actually want because they either already have it or what you're looking at isn't going to be compatible with their existing smart home stuff.
Yeah.
This is a fraught and perilous segment to be purchasing things in. And like if you get them to tell you the exact product they want, like they send you a link to it on a storefront, then you can buy it. But you're not going to go like, oh, this person likes smart home stuff. Let me go get them a smart home thing and surprise them with it. That's 100% of the time going to be a bad idea. They don't want it, or they can't use it.
Especially because you're probably thinking an Amazon Echo, and you definitely shouldn't be buying them that anyway. So.
No, do not.
Yeah.
Do
don't
not
that.
buy them the Jeff Bezos machine. That's
Oh, true.
oh man. Yeah. So it's a rough thing. And there's also, I guess, a third category of stuff here, which is smart home things that are like not actually really shouldn't be smart home things, like refrigerators and washing machines and stuff like that. People have been, companies have been baking smart home functionality into appliances for a little while now. And while there are some advantages to them, like having a Samsung refrigerator that will track the contents of the fridge and send you notifications when something inside of it is about to spoil, I also don't trust that refrigerator isn't capable of just being shut off remotely by Samsung. If they decide they don't like you, just to spoil all the food in your fridge. I think there's concern there. And these are products that, generally speaking, don't really need smart home stuff in it. And I have concerns about the longevity of it because of the smart home stuff. Like, oh, sorry, you can't download updates for your washing machine anymore. We can't wash clothes. What?
That sounds so
What?
bad. Oh.
But it totally could happen. So yeah, just avoid anything that is smart home related. It's just not a real safe place to be buying surprise gifts for the techie in your life.
Also, if you're in the market yourself for a new fridge, don't buy a Samsung smart fridge that also claims it has AI and can tell you what to make based on ingredients in your fridge, because there's probably one of those. That.
Yeah, there probably is, and it will probably tell you to put glue on your pizza. Just don't.
But if someone does get you that, one, you can return it, or B, you can hack into it and put Doom on it, and then it'll be all right. We'll approve.
It's not a fridge. It's a game console.
It's a game console.
It's just a really big, super inconvenient game console.
It's a game console that holds your drinks for you.
Yeah,
there
it's
you
a 486 that holds your drinks right there.
It's a game console that cools your Mountain Dew. Okay, fair enough.
Got it.
Not just any Mountain Dew, your Game Fuel Mountain Dew.
Exactly. It's good points right there.
Sponsored by Pepsi. No.
If only Pepsi, call us.
Yeah, we're down. I drink enough of your friggin' products anyway. All right, let's move on. Also, any HP printer, or really any printer at all, don't buy the techie in your life.
I mean, generally speaking, techies have already eliminated paper from their day-to-day life just at all. So they don't need a printer. But if they do need a printer, they don't want one from HP. Now, I know that Costco has got a really good deal on that one HP printer you walked past like last week, and you thought to yourself, you know what? My grandson really could have used like a new printer, because he was telling me how he needed to print something off for school the other week or whatever. Don't buy any printer that is made by HP. And the simple reason is because you have to subscribe, like pay a monthly subscription to get ink for this printer. It's kind of a ridiculous amount of money. And the ink, like the printer itself, will just randomly print test pages in order to keep the ink heads from drying up. And instead of just cleaning the ink heads periodically, and every time it does that, uses up ink. And then HP decides when you get more ink, and they just send it to you. And if, like, at any point you decide to yourself, you know what? I am definitely not getting, $25 a month worth of value out of this printer. I'm just going to stop paying HP's, expensive subscription price and just use up the ink that's in the printer. You can't. As soon as you cancel that subscription, the printer is a brick. HP remotely deactivates it. You can't actually print anything with the printer unless you have an active subscription through HP. So, HP printers are a scam. there are a few brands of printers where you can buy a brand new printer. I think Lenovo, no, not Lenovo, the other L-based printer brand. Oh gosh, what are they called? I can't remember. Lexmark. Lexmark has one that it's a tank printer, meaning that instead of ink cartridges, it has these little tanks on it that you just dump ink into.
Yeah.
And those are way more economical. You don't have to pay a subscription in order to get the inks, and it will print with any ink. Doesn't have to be a Lexmark branded ink. You can just buy third-party ink and dump it in there and use it. And the printer doesn't care. So if it's something like that, maybe it's okay. But make sure that this techie actually needs a printer, because there's a good chance that they kind of don't. So
yeah, like I've got one of those type of printers, but it's not the Lexmark, it's the Epson brand one.
Yep, Epson.
Yeah.
But and you've probably seen those at Costco or Sam's Club or anywhere else too, because those are all over the place. And I've had one for about a year, and I will say it is great. It works perfectly fine. And yes, like you can just add whatever ink that you want and it'll work. You don't have to have a specific first party cartridge that goes in there. You just buy ink, pour it in, and you're good to go. It's great.
Yep. So yes. So if you can verify this person actually does need a printer or really want a printer, that's the kind of printer to get them, but definitely nothing that is HP.
No.
As far as I'm aware, every single HP printer is just a scam. So there you go.
And if you think he's lying, he's not.
No.
Because I got an HP printer that was just before, so it's the one I can connect wirelessly. Well, they didn't update. I got this years ago. They didn't update to it to where, I want to use it from my computer to the printer. I can't do that anymore because it wants me to create an HP account, but it wants me to log in. So I now have to use a USB dongle, put it in there, say scan or do whatever, or I have to print it from my phone to there because on my PC, it won't let me do that.
Wow.
Because it wants me to create an HP. So it won't let me use the software. It won't let me hit print to this because every time I say print to it, it brings up the HP stuff and it says sign in.
Oh gosh,
I wish I was kidding, but I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So
I'm not at all surprised. HP printers are just straight up a scam.
Yep.
I have a printer. It's an old laser printer, like a brother from, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 years ago. It's an old university printer. And I bought secondhand cartridge of toner after I got that thing for $20 used. The toner cartridge cost, I think, $20, $40 into the whole thing. And I am, like a fraction of 1% through the like 15,000 pages that cartridge of toner is going to give me. So I'm not paying any money for printers, like basically for the rest of my natural life. So printers in general, kind of a hard thing to shop for. But yeah, if you know, like a photographer or something like that, they really want to be able to print out the pictures they take and stuff like that just to do test prints at home, even if they're not doing like serious prints. Get them a tank-based Lexmark, Epson, whatever, nothing by HP.
No. And also it randomly just starts cleaning itself. Yep. My kids and everyone, we after we use the printer to print something, you just turn it off.
Yeah.
You shut it down. Turn it off. Yeah, you shut it down.
Or it's just going to sit there and waste ink.
Because there was one time I had bought ink. I was like, all right, this is good. We didn't use the printer for a long time. You just don't use it. And finally I was like, oh, I need to print this off. Went over there, out of ink. I'm like, what? So I had found out what it was doing. You'd hear it randomly just turn on and whatever. I'm like, nope, off. Never said. So yeah, I've been using this cartridge that I've got right here for a long time because it doesn't sit there and clean itself. So
good times.
Yes. All right, enough about the hatred of printers. Let's move on.
That's what HP stands for. I get it now.
That's amazing. Do we have a category for that? Let's see. Worst, no, best. I don't know. Best, what is it, name of the year or something? I don't know.
Worst platform of the year. HP printers.
Although, to be fair, that's more worst platform of the decade.
That really is, yeah.
Seriously. let's move. Let's move on. Any mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. So this one is, I mean, this is making the assumption, listener, that you don't know what a good mouse or keyboard is. You might, but even then, it's still kind of a fraught area to be shopping for somebody else, because so much of what makes a good mouse and keyboard to a person is personal preference. So unless you are very, very confident in exactly what they prefer out of their ideal mouse and or keyboard, then probably avoid it. If it's the kind of thing where you have on multiple occasions had them talking to you like, man, I really want this one specific mouse. Like, it looks so good. I love it. Whatever. Like, I just wish I had one of those. Then yeah, you can get that, but recognize they may have also bought that for themselves on Black Friday. So like, make sure they didn't before you do.
Yeah.
Just like
True.
keep your receipts. Keep your receipts. There might have been some doubling up here, but yeah, it's just a hard thing to shop for, and you can't go on to YouTube and just be like, okay, good mechanical keyboard, and try and find something, because the person you're shopping for might be a psychopath like me and prefer membrane laptop keyboards over a good mechanical keyboard. Like, the simple fact of the matter is Apple makes my favorite keyboards and everybody hates their keyboards. Okay, not hates, but
Yeah.
you know, generally speaking, the people that are like really big into keyboards, they don't like Apple keyboards are fine at best or terrible at worst. So yeah, like it's just personal preference carries a lot of weight in this category. And so, well, I would say like, yes, absolutely. Go buy, you know, your best friend, Logitech Master MX3. There's a very good chance they would hate that mouse because it's just not what they're after
Might be
in terms
close
of what
to
they
like
want.
comparison. I was thinking like some other comparison for keyboard and mouse. This might be a choice of boxers and briefs in this situation.
Yeah, it sort of is. Yeah. Like it's just you got to know a lot about a person in order to
Exactly.
make an informed decision about what kind of
Yeah.
mouse and keyboard is going to work for them. But yeah, like, and 100%, you know, if you've got a kid or a grandkid or a niece or nephew or something like that, who's like just starting to get into PC gaming or something like that, and you're like, I'm going to get him a cool gaming mouse and keyboard set. And you go onto Amazon and you buy one that's, you know, like $30 or something like that. It's got like fancy lights and that kind of thing. I just want you to recognize you have bought them probably the worst mouse and the worst keyboard on the planet. Just don't. You're better off going into like a thrift store and buying an old like Dell keyboard and mouse set that shipped with their computers. It's not going to be worse.
No.
You know, it can only be better. So yeah, it's generally speaking probably a good idea just to let them shop for those and just give them, you know, a check or a gift card instead.
I mean, the only person that you should be buying a mouse and keyboard for is yourself, one, or
Yeah.
two, if it's like someone that's going to college for some reason doesn't have a laptop, I don't know, or if they still want a mouse and keyboard with their laptop because they're going to put it on I don't know. Go to Best Buy and just buy don't buy the cheapest one, but buy the like mid-range Logitech keyboard and mouse combo, because those are going to be good enough for that person if they
Yeah.
don't already have something, because they're generic enough and good enough that they will work for most people. But again, if it's a techie, they probably have a preference and you don't know what it is.
Exactly. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, getting a mid-range Logitech keyboard and mouse, like Logitech makes good stuff, and everything that they make is generally pretty inoffensive, and their mid-range stuff is designed to appeal to as broad of an audience as possible. And if nothing else, you have given them a Logitech unifying receiver dongle, which shockingly useful piece of kit.
Yes.
So, you know, just kind of nice to have that around for use with any Logitech exterior peripheral. So, you know, you'd probably be okay with that sort of thing, but in general, just probably best to avoid.
We got our mouse or yep,
Yes, yeah,
mouse
I think-
keyboards. Okay, let's move to the next one. Next thing to not buy for your techie in your life, a VPN subscription.
Yeah, this one also kind of comes down to personal preference. Like, having a VPN is not a bad thing. It allows you to keep your ISP from snooping your traffic. And I mean, I guess it kind of also, you can use it to access stuff that's available on Netflix in other countries. That's sort of about it. Like, that's all that VPNs are useful for. So if you know somebody who needs a VPN for one of those specific reasons, again, odds are really good they already have one that they like, that they researched, that they know, and that kind of thing, and they're fine. They don't need a VPN subscription. You're going to be like, oh yeah, but I'll just give them a free month. Unless you know specifically what VPN they're already using, don't do that, because you're going to be like, yeah, I got you a free month of NordVPN. And they're going to be like, cool, I'm subscribed to PIA. Like, they're completely different. Yep. I can't use this gift you have given me, like, so just don't. Like, it can be a useful thing, but the person that you're going to be buying this for probably already has it. If they don't, if this is the kind of thing where, you're a parent and you're getting your kid their first VPN because they're going off to college or something like that, then this is, I suppose, your opportunity to give them buying advice and then give them a free month of whatever VPN you think they should be using so that they can try it out. So, okay, there is a scenario in which I suppose this would make sense as a gift. But again, like with most of these, it's a fairly narrow slice of, the tech people that you know. And you're going to see a lot of VPN ads out there that are going to be like, yes, every tech-obsessed person in the world needs this. And the honest truth is, if the person that you're thinking of needs a VPN, they probably already have one.
Something that popped up I don't think we have on the list that's a subscription that I thought of is also a password manager subscription.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So that might be kind of a side note on that. Password manager, like LastPass. I can't think of it.
Don't buy them LastPass.
All the others.
The data breaches.
So,
as somebody that used to use LastPass and paid for it, don't do that anymore.
Okay, next. An ad that Caleb has been seeing a lot that you don't want to buy for your techie in your life. A Microsoft Copilot PC. Sorry, I tried to say that without laughing. I really did.
So, I mean, and this really comes down to the fact that currently, despite logic and good reasons, the only Microsoft Copilot Plus PCs that you can buy at the moment are powered by a Snapdragon processor, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Qualcomm did some pretty good work with that chip, but it's still just not I don't... When Apple made the switch to Apple Silicon, they had the unique ability to basically go, look, we made this chip. Here's the software translation layer for it. It all works really well. You're getting a ton of additional performance over our old processors, and you've got no choice, right? Like, you want to buy a Mac, you have to get Apple Silicon going forward. That's just how it is. Microsoft is not in that position. They didn't ship the software layer that is as good as Apple's. It works now, which is much better than it has been in the past. So, like, to be clear, progress is definitely being made there. And the chip itself is better than some of the previous chips for certain use cases, but in a lot of other use cases, it is still worse. And so it's not like it was a slam dunk win for PCs, this Qualcomm chip, and Microsoft doesn't have the ability to force you to just buy it. And so the support isn't there. They're just not catching on, which means that the experience of whoever is using these Copilot Plus PCs is going to not be ideal and probably deteriorate over time, if I were to hazard a guess. So probably just avoid that, get them. And, the newer AMD powered ones, they've got their stupid Ryzen AI garbage nonsense chips, and get them those. They're very powerful and extremely efficient. And Intel's latest generation of laptop chips is also very efficient. And I don't want to say extremely powerful. They do process things. So, that is what you want from your processor.
So yeah, that not a good one. Landon, you have anything comments on the Copilot PCs?
No. Don't buy
Don't
one.
buy it. Okay. All right, next thing on the list: wireless headphones, unless they're from a known good brand like Apple or Sony.
Yeah. This one, again, personal preference is a lot of the reason for this as well, along with the mouse and keyboard. Audio listening experience and the feature set that somebody is looking for from a pair of wireless earbuds or wireless headphones of any kind is just very subjective. And it's really hard to shop for somebody else for something like this. There are, if you're getting somebody a pair of AirPods are very broadly liked. They're not like, for the most part, they're not anybody's favorite headphones they've ever listened to, but they don't do anything outright offensive, generally speaking. And the same goes for Sony's wireless headphones. They, generally speaking, are pretty they're good. Some people think they're the best thing ever. Most people are all like, probably not the best thing ever, but they're good. And so that works. It's a fairly safe bet with stuff like that. There's also the situation of you're buying wireless headphones, like somebody, like a kid, a 10-year-old kid, their first pair of like wireless headphones or something like that they can use to listen to the iPad or whatever. Mm-hmm. All right, they don't really care exactly what kind of quality they get. They don't have an opinion on how headphones sound or anything like that. So yeah, all right, you can kind of get those people whatever they want. But the techie in your life, they probably have an opinion on headphones, and it's unless they have specifically told you, hey, I want this model of headphone from this company, it's kind of a hard thing to shop for.
Also, when it comes to brands like Apple, don't buy AirPods Max.
Yeah, don't waste your money, listener. You are better than that. You deserve better than that. Yes. It's not that they're bad headphones. They're just very expensive for what they are.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. Another thing, Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, if you're given the option to gift somebody a subscription to Apple TV Plus, I'm not even sure that is an option. I've just been seeing a ton of ads for Silo right now. Silo second season's come out. I haven't actually watched the show. Really good critical reception. People seem to like it, generally speaking. And that's great. I love people liking shows. And, if you have to get a show through Apple TV Plus, sometimes you got to do it. And listen, the techie in your life wants Ted Lasso. Everybody wants Ted Lasso, right? But they don't want a subscription to Apple TV Plus. If you want to invite them over to watch TV Plus, you can all go in together on a single month of Apple TV Plus and then just binge watch all of Ted Lasso and then cancel it, that kind of thing. But it's the kind of gift that says, I don't know what your tastes are, but I know you're probably not subscribed to this service. So here you go. Just not a great gift,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unless somehow you got, how there's always those promotions, you buy this, here's 3 months of something. Maybe give that to them. I don't know.
Nah,
that way you don't have to pay for it. You know what I mean? It's not the perk, but there you go.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's just that, again, it just feels like a gift that's basically saying, hey, I didn't actually get you a gift, but here's a thing.
Yeah. True.
It just feels like a bad gift to me.
Nah, you just say, here's a code I got for you. You don't have to say how you got it. Just because I gave you the 14 days of Game Pass for free, that I had laying around for your birthday doesn't mean I'm just kidding.
I mean, that definitely did happen at least once, probably more than that.
I know. All right, let's move on. One last thing on the list of things you shouldn't buy, the techie in your life, a blue microphone.
Any microphone that is colored blue. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, maybe, but
Yeah, maybe that.
not entirely. Now, listener, this is my input to the things of not to buy, and it isn't necessarily like techies, but usually tech people want to have some sort of microphone, whether they're a gamer or a techie, because they're for video calls or for, whatever online. It is nice to have a somewhat decent microphone, so you have somewhat better sound than whatever is built into the computer or built into the webcam that they're using. But despite, even if they are asking for a Blue microphone, whether it's the Blue Yeti or Blue Snowball or any of those microphones, don't buy them. That one, please. Not that the Blue microphones are bad. I have to say, I do own a couple of Blue microphones. I don't use them. One of which I actually didn't purchase. It was sent to me by Blue to review, and I gave them an honest review of it. They probably didn't like it, which is why they've only sent me 2 instead of 3. But they are decent microphones if they're used properly. Most people that buy a Blue microphone do not know how to use them properly or in the correct environment, because the problem with those microphones, this is going to get a little deep into the woods here, but anyways, they are what's called a condenser microphone, which means they are more sensitive to the area around them. And so they will pick up more sounds. So if you are not in a well-treated room that is quiet with nice soft things on the walls or a couch or something like that, it's not going to sound great despite spending way more money on that microphone than you could on others. Just so don't buy them the Blue microphone. A suggestion, if they need a microphone, look at like the Samson Q2U microphones. That is the microphone that both Wes and Caleb use. It's a great microphone.
Yep.
Sounds good. If you're
Very
looking
good.
for something that's a little more updated, meaning it has a USB-C outlet rather than a micro USB, because Samsung's microphones still, for some dumb reason, are not updated.
Oh, it's even worse than that. It's not a micro USB.
It's a
I
mini
believe
USB.
It's mini.
That's right.
Yeah, it's mini USB.
Yeah. It is.
Yep.
That is too bad.
A
But
little
if you're-
old.
If you're looking for something else, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100X, also another good microphone. Both of those microphones are usually priced under $70, and around now they're even cheaper. Both cheaper than the Blue microphones that don't sound, well, most likely will not sound as good. They have the potential to sound better, again, if used properly. But just don't buy them a Blue microphone, even if they're asking for it, because they probably just got fed the ads, because that's what happens with a company that has lots of money.
Yep.
So that's my part into this. Don't buy this.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we have on there, but we did come up with another that says, there may be some stuff that's okay to buy techie, pretty techie in your life on this list. So, first thing on here, AirPods or the Sony XM5s.
Yeah. This springs off of that wireless headphone comment about just generally speaking, you don't want to buy somebody wireless headphones, but AirPods, yeah, they're usually a fairly safe bet. If the person that you know has an iPhone, buying them a pair of AirPods is probably going to go over fairly well.
Yeah.
And the Sony XM5 is just kind of a, doesn't matter what ecosystem they're in. And to be clear, Sony XM5 can refer to over-ear headphones or wireless earbuds, right? It's going to either be the WH-1000 XM5s or the WF-1000 XM5s. WH is the over-ear headphones, and WF is the earbuds. Because Sony is really bad at naming products. But that doesn't mean the products are bad. They're very good headphones, very broadly respected, and generally speaking will work quite well for pretty much anybody who is looking for high quality in-ear headphones or over-ear headphones. So those are good options that if you know somebody who is looking for, new headphones, either of those would make a pretty darn good gift.
All right. Next, the Affinity Suite. Currently, everything's 50% off.
Yes, listener. Now, if you have somebody in your life that is a photographer or into graphic design or things like that, don't buy them a subscription to Adobe, please.
No.
Don't do that.
That's terrible. Don't do it.
Because
Don't curse them with that.
yes, yep. That is definitely a curse. Not that the software is bad. The software is good. It's just expensive, and you're paying monthly, and it's just not necessary.
It's Adobe that's bad, not the software.
Yes,
it's the company.
That's true. Because there's a company, Affinity, that makes competing software to pretty much all the majority of the highly used stuff from Adobe. They have Affinity Designer, which is basically Illustrator, and they have Affinity Photo, which is basically Photoshop, and they have Affinity Publisher, which is basically InDesign.
Yep.
So there you go, and you can buy the whole
and
suite.
Then if you need a replacement for the other stuff in Affinity's or in Adobe's library, look at DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah,
that covers most of the rest of it.
Yeah, and right now, like Wes mentioned, you can buy the entire suite of products for 50% off the full price, which I can't remember what the full price is, but this takes it down to under $100 or something like that.
Yeah, just
and
under.
That includes all the software for both a desktop computer or an iPad. And you can use them on multiple computers and multiple iPads. It's not like one piece of software on one computer. No, I can have Affinity Photo on my computer. I can have it on my wife's computer. I can have it on the iPad, and they all work great. And they are excellent pieces of software. I always recommend them to anybody that is trying to get away from Adobe because it's going to save you a lot of money. It's a buy once and you're good. And they do I've gotten updates on the software, so we don't have to worry about that either. Because that's one thing that Adobe pushes, if we have to charge a subscription so we can keep updating your software. Do you though? Because you really don't.
Nope.
So this is good software. Buy once, you have it, and it's inexpensive. Like I said, under $100 for the 50% off, and it's great.
Yeah, and Affinity, the makers of Affinity Serif, were fairly recent. Well, okay, it's been like 8 months or something like that. They were bought by Canva.
Yeah. Who,
if you know Canva, they do like creative software that's cloud based. You use it through a browser, and they have some like free tiers, but they also have subscription tiers and that kind of thing. So the Affinity Suite, not guaranteed to stay a single purchase piece of software forever, right? Canva's current money-making model is subscription based. And so they may push the Affinity Suite into a subscription at some point. So now is probably the time to be buying the one-time purchase Affinity Suite V2, which they have said is going to remain a one-time purchase until version 2 of the software is no longer supported. But version 3 might be a subscription. So now's the time. If you know somebody that's in the market for creative software, especially like somebody who's in high school or just getting into college or something like that, get them started now on something that isn't Adobe so that they don't get into a rut the way that so many Adobe users are, where they're like, well, no, I have to use Adobe because Adobe does everything better than everybody else, even though that's just not true anymore, right? Like it used to be true, but now Adobe is actually worse at a lot of stuff than Affinity, for instance. Like I have used Illustrator extensively. I've used Affinity Designer extensively. I prefer the way Affinity Designer does it. The only major feature that I lost switching over was the Live Trace tool in Illustrator. And listener, if you know anybody who is using the Live Trace tool in Illustrator, something has already gone horribly wrong in their life. You need to get them to a therapist. Like, that requires counseling. So yeah, no, it's excellent software, and now is honestly a really great time to get that for somebody else, even if they're not going to be able to continue to use Affinity for the indefinite future, because yes, it does turn into a subscription and they don't want to pay for a subscription at some point in the future. It is at least going to start them down the path of, you know what? There are really competent alternatives out here to Adobe so that they don't get stuck.
Yeah. The other really great thing about Affinity software, you can use it offline.
Yeah.
Whereas Adobe, because it's subscription, you have to sign in and be connected to the internet for it to actually work, which is awful. Absolutely. Yep. I mean, that's just as bad as HP. It's just horrible.
It is. It is. Yeah. Listener. So for play this instead of Adobe Photoshop this week, we've got Affinity Photo.
Yes.
Offline mode, man. That's so huge. So huge. We're going to move on. One that came up, what we wanted to mention would be okay is controllers for the techie gamer in your life. Wants to try games. So controllers, really Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, but especially they have a Switch. They might be in the market for a new Joy-Con controller or a controller, because
Joy-Cons especially.
Either their Joy-Con they're tired of buying Joy-Cons and they just would rather just have a controller.
Yeah.
Or B, controllers are usually cheaper than the Joy-Cons anyway, even on sale. So
yep. Well, and you know, the caveat here, listener, is that you need to know what console they have before you buy them a controller, right? Don't just be like, well, I think they have an Xbox, so I'm going to go buy them an Xbox controller, and it turns out they have a PlayStation, because they're not cross-compatible.
No.
So make sure that you know what console they actually have and go buy them a controller compatible with that console. But generally speaking, gamers are kind of always in the mood of like, yeah, I'll try out a new controller. That sounds like fun. And having multiple controllers, never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But especially if they have a Switch, the Joy-Con has either been lost or has stick drift at this point, and they can't use it and they hate it. So get them a new pair of Joy-Cons. They'll really appreciate that. Or buy them a Pro controller and they'll be like, oh, good, I can stop using Joy-Cons. So yeah, like Switch controllers are kind of like, that one's always a good gift. Like,
it's funny because the Pro controller is cheaper than those Joy-Cons.
And
usually is on, even when on sale, it's like $20 off anyway. So
Yep. So yeah, it's decent. And you know, and if you're honestly, even if they're a PC gamer, or even if you've got one of the white whales that does most of their gaming on iOS or a Mac, which flippin', how did you find that person? Anyways, like, controllers are still a good option there, because yes, I am a PCMR, like, all the way. Keyboard and mouse is just the superior control scheme for basically everything except driving and flying. Any game that involves driving or flying, controllers, thumbsticks are better for that kind of thing. And you know, if it's flying, then yes, actually, I would like a yoke, right? Like, like a full-on HOTAS control setup. Anyways, so yeah, like, even for the PC gamer in your life, buying a controller, not necessarily a bad thing. And if they do have a PC, like gaming on Windows, you probably are totally fine to get them either a PS5 compatible controller like a DualSense or an Xbox controller. Either of those will work with stuff, especially if they game in Steam. The Steam overlay supports, or the Steam controller input supports both. Mac OS currently supports both the DualSense and the Xbox controller, and I think the Pro controller from the Switch. So you can kind of go any which way with your PC gamers and getting them controllers. So
along those lines, if they're a PC gamer, you want to find out what preference of controller they have, because there's going to be a preference there too, because
that's true.
They are different enough controllers that the feel and the way you want to use it is going to change by which one you have.
Yeah. And honestly, if you do know somebody that does a lot of gaming on iOS and they're all like, yeah, I would kind of like a controller, SteelSeries Nimbus Get them that thing. It's
Yeah.
so good. Love that.
Not bad at all. Not bad. All right, next thing we're going to talk about is storage, and this could be storage, for basically for like storage as hard drives or little SSD or little thing for whether it's a computer, laptop, PlayStation, Xbox. You mentioned phone. Any kind of storage is going to be pretty decent.
Cardboard
Yeah.
box, you know.
I
Yep,
was
storage.
trying to be more specific. I started thinking
Some-
of like just saying
Get them
storage.
some shelves they can put in their garage, or
I mean, still,
I would
yes.
not turn that down.
I was gonna say
No.
we're old
I
enough now. We're old
I
enough
can't-
techies that we're like, actually, how
be
many
awesome.
boxes? Really?
I
Is that
honestly,
what?
I honestly can't think of a single person that would like, you get the big black plastic bins with the
Yes.
yellow lids.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know a single person that would scoff at that. Like everybody's
No.
like, oh heck yeah, I can always use another bin.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
like storage in general for the techie in your life, if it's, if they're a photographer, get them some high capacity SD cards. Like they're not going to be upset with that.
Yeah.
If they're a gamer, get them, Xbox. They've got their little plug-in storage expansion things, whatever. Get them one of
An
those.
expansion storage.
You can get an SSD for your PlayStation gamers. They can stick it in there. You can get external hard drives or external SSDs for your PC gamers, or just, your video editor friend or audio editor or whatever. You can honestly just like a really big flash drive for somebody. Like, hey, here's a
Yeah.
256 gig USB-C, like 3.2, whatever thumb drive. Techie people tend to just like always need more storage.
Yeah.
Or a
It's
way
all
to
like
store it on something else to move it. Like there's
Yeah. I either need to be able to move big files around, or I need to be able to back something up, or I need to have actual storage space to install games because frickin' Call of Duty is like 150 gigs these days and stuff like that. Like, I don't even know how big the newest version of Microsoft Flight Simulator is, but frankly, I
Oh,
kind of don't
golly.
want to. The last one was so huge. This
It was
I
massive.
just don't want to know.
yeah.
So yeah, storage is always good.
Yep.
Yeah, and for your, like, this goes back to what we were talking about before with keyboards. If you have a college student that needs some external storage, buy them like a portable, like Samsung makes great, inexpensive SSDs that are about the size of a credit card in area.
Yeah.
They're a little thicker, obviously, but they're really small, super portable, and like you can get 2 terabytes for about $50 to $60, and they're
Yep.
absolutely excellent, and they'll work on anything. And a college student or high school student will use it.
Oh yeah, and they're really fast. Too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. Those external SSDs they're going to be faster than a thumb drive. They're going to be, way more portable than an external hard drive or something like that. Like that's kind of the sweet spot, is getting one of those, like a nice external SSD like that.
Agreed. All right, next thing, battery bank.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
listener, you're not a techie and you already are nodding your head, right? Like it's never a bad idea to have more battery banks around. Like just, and the same goes for the techie in your life. I would just, the one thing I would say is, generally speaking, if you can get them a battery bank that has more than one type of output, that's nice to have, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got a USB-A port and a USB-C port on it.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Or it does wireless charging. Like it's got a Qi wireless charger on it for a phone and a USB-A port output. Stuff like that. Just generally speaking, yes, you can get battery banks off of like Temu or AliExpress or Wish or whatever. Like, and most of the battery banks that you're going to see on Amazon are the same as those. And those are fine, right? They're not going to charge super fast. They're not going to have the biggest batteries in them. They're generally speaking probably going to be fine. But just, maybe don't skimp out too much.
Yeah. I also would not recommend getting a battery bank that has a solar panel on it unless
Yeah,
you're
that's true.
spending like $200 or more. If you're spending
Yeah.
$50 and it's advertising, it has solar, it can charge via solar, don't buy that one. Just don't.
Like, to be
Wow.
clear, it probably technically can charge via solar, but it's also probably not handling the heat very well. So if you just leave it sitting out in the sun to charge, it's probably going to catch fire. So
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Like I said, if you're buying one that costs upwards of $200 or more that has solar charging, that one will probably be okay. But the ones that are under $100 don't.
I feel like at that point you may as well just buy a small Jackery
Yeah.
with a solar panel to plug into it.
Ugh. True. So battery banks, pretty decent.
Yep.
All right. Next on the list here, Anker or Ugreen GAN chargers.
Yes. So capital G, lowercase a, capital N stands for gallium nitride. And this is a new type of power brick, like the little wall warts you plug in, have a USB port on them to charge devices. That's what these are. And there are a lot of different companies that are selling these right now. I happen to know that both Anker and Ugreen have fairly decent reputations in the space for making fairly good quality ones at reasonable prices. And these are chargers that are different than the charger that the Techie in Your Life already has. Because let's be honest, the Techie in Your Life doesn't need more wall warts, right? They have wall warts that they've been harvesting from their smartphones and tablets and just everything that they've been buying for the past 10 to 15 years. They have so many of these. They're drowning. I have a drawer over here with at least 5 in it right now that are unused, to say nothing of the literal dozens that are just plugged in various places around my house. But here's the thing. The majority of those are 5-watt output chargers designed for charging an iPhone 5, or an iPhone 4. When did they first release that thing with the iPhone? It's a long time ago. They were designed for charging really old iPhones, and they're super duper slow. Do not output a lot of power, and they're not great. But they were made fairly well, and they lasted a really long time. And so the Techie in Your Life probably hasn't gotten rid of these things. They've just been using them, and they're probably kind of sick of them. Everybody needs chargers, and they would like an upgrade, but couldn't really justify an upgrade because for the past 10 years, there haven't been many notable upgrades. But over the past few years, we have been seeing a lot more of these gallium nitride chargers pop up. And these things will give you, a couple of USB-C outputs you can use to charge something along with a USB-A output. And they'll output at 65 plus watts, which is a much larger number than 5, listener, in case you couldn't tell. So you could totally get some chargers for the Techie in Your Life. They're not going to be upset. They can always use more. Even if they have enough to meet their needs right now, they would love to upgrade a couple of them with something notably better. And these GAN chargers from Anker or Ugreen are those.
Very, very good. Everyone needs more chargers.
Yeah.
All right. And, the last thing on here was a lot of thought. We sat there and huddled for a minute for this one.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, this definitely something you can buy a Techie in Your Life.
Yep.
Socks.
Yeah. Let's be honest, they probably haven't bought themselves socks in 4 years. They're all grody and full of holes and stuff like that. Get them a pack of nice socks. They'll love that.
That will always be a good thing for the Techie in Your Life.
Yes.
That was the last thing. Hope you enjoyed our list, listener, of things to not buy the Techie in Your Life, and maybe some stuff is probably okay to buy the Techie in Your Life. We do have some news we're going to go over here. We have some Apple news. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about Siri is going to be an LLM.
Yeah, listener, we're not really going to talk about this.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put this out there into the universe that there are rumors that exist right now that Apple is working on a large language model powered version of Siri that's going to be ready for release in early 2026. They're expecting Apple to say something about it at WWDC next year and then just say that it's not going to be available until spring of the next year. So that's a thing that evidently Apple is doing, because despite the fact that Apple engineers did an entire study and published a whole paper about how LLMs are stupid and unreliable and cannot be actually counted on to accomplish anything, they're doing it anyways. So That's great. I love that. I want to say, Apple, it was definitely not the fact that Siri couldn't accomplish anything when you asked her to do stuff. that was not the problem that we have with Siri, right? Like that's never been the issue, is that when I ask Siri to make a note and she like plays a playlist from Spotify or something like that, like that's not the problem. The problem is that she didn't sound human enough when she was talking to me. So yes, put an LLM in there. Don't actually make it work. That's, yeah, good job. You got it.
Got it. Landon, you have any comments on this Siri here?
I don't
Okay.
use Siri. I didn't use
Good.
Google Assistant. These are not the type of things that I really care that much about. If they get better, I'll test them out and play with them for a minute or two. But then I go back to doing things the way I always have, which is just, clicking on my phone and opening up an app that is just as fast, if not faster, doing it myself than using any of these assistants.
I'm the same way. I think the last time I messed with something is when we were messing with the AI image generators there for a minute, and then all right, that was fun. We're done.
Yeah.
So,
It's a toy. Okay.
yep, that was fun. Okay, we're gonna move on here. We got some Google news. Landon wants to talk about. We got the DOJ. I said G. DOJ versus Google.
I mean, at this point, we can call them the Department of Google. That'd be kind of fun.
Department of Google.
I mean, also,
Ugh.
okay, sidetrack. To be fair, all of these companies don't technically have a department of said company, but they do. There's a department of Google. There's a department of Apple. There's a department of Microsoft. They all have their lobbyists over in DC. But we
That's
don't need to
very
get
true.
into that because that's
Yeah.
a can of worms we don't need to
That's a whole other. Yeah.
But apparently the lobbyists for Google aren't working very hard because the Department of Justice has, like, we've already talked about this. They did find Google as working as a monopoly when it comes to search. And they've now suggested to the judge a way to help alleviate this problem. And I just have to start by saying the Department of Justice has learned absolutely nothing in the past 30 years because they did this exact same thing 30 years ago to Microsoft. So what they want to do for Google to have less power when it comes to search and stuff like that is get them to sell Chrome, because that makes sense, right?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So
Oh man.
I'm not going to go into a ton of details here. I mean, there are a little more details, but basically what they want is they want Chrome to be its own thing so that users can choose their own search engine in Chrome, because they can't do that at the moment, I guess, according to the Department of Justice. I don't know. They also, I mean, there's a lot of things that are involved with that, but they basically want to make it so when you have or this is another thing they want to do with inside Android. Instead of getting Android off the books at Google, they want to get Chrome. Again, doesn't make sense. But inside of Android, when you first open up or turn on an Android device, it will basically be what you had to do back in the day with Microsoft, where it'll give you a selection of different browsers to choose from. So you can choose a browser, and then it will give you a selection of different search engines to have as the default. Because everybody wants that, even though it's going to be like, well, which internet browser do you want to use? They're like, oh, Chrome, duh, that's the one I've always used, so I'm just going to download that. And then which search engine do you want to use? Well, I haven't heard of these other ones, so I'll use Google.
I hope though when they do the install of this that they have Gemini screaming at the top of the speaker saying, "Hey, welcome! I'm Gemini. Would you like to have this?"
Oh, Cortana. How
Yep,
we miss
yep.
you.
No, that's going to be in about 20 years because that's how long it took Microsoft to do that.
Right. Exactly.
Again, this isn't anything that's actually going to happen as of yet. This is just what the DOJ has suggested they want the judge to make Google do. And the judge isn't even going to rule on this until August of next year. So,
Yeah.
and if the judge agrees with this, Google is going to appeal that because, obviously. So nothing is actually going to be implemented for probably 3 or 4 years or more, if anything actually happens. Oh, it's so interesting that the choice that they went with is divesting Chrome away from Google. I don't fully understand that, but apparently all the government really understands is browsers, because that's what it was in the 90s with Microsoft. That's what it is now. I mean, to be fair, Chrome is by far the most used web browser in the United States, but that's, in most people's cases, a choice that has to be made, because if you're buying a Mac, the default browser is Safari. If you're buying a PC, the default browser is Edge. People have to go and install Chrome themselves to use it. The only way it's not or that it is the default is if you buy an Android device. I could understand the DOJ saying, "Okay, Chrome can't be the default on Android anymore." That's fine. That makes some sense. But like I said, it's not the default on any major computing platform other than Chrome, and I wouldn't call that a major computing platform because it's not yet.
Yeah.
So I don't fully understand this quote unquote remedy that they've proposed.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think that, like, I was reading through the list of things that they were like, yeah, this is what should happen. And it kind of felt like they were throwing an entire pot of spaghetti at the wall, hoping some of it would stick.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looked like, is they're like, well, if the judge rules in favor of some of this, then we'll have won,
Yeah.
So just, like, throw as much as you can.
Yeah. I mean, part of it as well is they want Google to basically give all of the data that they collect via search to everybody else that has their own search engine. So Bing would have access to all of Google's data, which that would make Bing exponentially better.
It's not even exact. It's not like the user data Google collects for advertising purposes. It's the index. Right. They want Google's index of websites to be published and available for everyone else, which would mean theoretically that somebody else could make a competing search engine to Google that would have the same index of sites in order to use. But they didn't say anything about making Google divest the algorithms that power their search, which is what's actually useful. Yeah. Everybody's got stuff that'll crawl the website and generate crawl the internet and generate an index. That's not that difficult. It's the algorithms that are what make Google work better than, or at least, perceived as better for most people. And here's the honest truth. Google may actually just take care of this for the DOJ if they keep pushing the AI summaries on their pages and stuff like that. People are going to stop using Google because it's going to continue to be more and more unreliable, and they're going to go to somebody who's not doing that. Though I guess, who does that leave them with, actually? Because Bing is doing that. DuckDuckGo. I guess you're all just going to have to switch to DuckDuckGo. I don't know.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give that update. Again, nothing's going to happen anytime soon. The judge isn't going to rule on this decision until August at the earliest. So it's going to be a while before we actually know anything or anything happens. I just wanted to mention how stupid of an idea this actually is from the DOJ. There are other things they could have come up with, but again, they're not very bright.
Just don't know how the brain worked on that one. All right, moving next here. This is different, but by the way, it's February now.
Yes, listener. So we mentioned last week how last week was January because we mentioned something that should have been a CES. So obviously it's January. Now it's apparently February because the very first Android 16 developer preview is available. And listener, because you're not watching, I have to mention Caleb just has this really confused look on his face, pushed back from his computer and wait, what? Yes, like I said, the Android 16 developer preview 1 is now available. Now, I would not, unless you are a developer who has multiple devices, do not install this on your primary device by any means, because it's the very first developer preview. We had mentioned, it's been at least a few weeks, probably a month or so, that Google was planning on pushing up the timeline for Android to release the version of the basically stable version of Android 16 in Q2 of next year, which is going to be end of June-ish, is what we're expecting. So it does kind of make sense that developer preview is now available. It's just kind of surprising because we can't say that we weren't expecting this, but we really weren't expecting this because it's like,
why?
I mean, developer previews have always come around February or March because the full version of Android gets released in September, and that, makes sense. But again, like they announced that it was going to be released in Q2, that means we have to get the developer preview earlier. It's just kind of funny that Android 15 was literally just launched a month and a half ago. Not even that. About a month and a half ago. And now we have Android 16. So that's fun, right?
So about a month, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, the product lead from Valve for the Steam Deck was asked in an interview whether Valve was working on, when were we going to be able to expect Steam Deck version 2, right? The Steam Deck 2. And he was like, I mean, we're working on stuff. We're paying attention to the market. We're doing work, but we're not going to push something out until there is a significant change in the technology that makes it worth having another version. That it would be kind of like an insult to our loyal customers to push something out that is just the same product, but newer for some reason. That was, just kind of the statement that he made. And I had a realization reading that interview, both for the iPhone and all of the Android phones and iOS and Android. We kind of several years ago, hit the point where they're just updating these things every year because they can. Because we're expecting it to happen.
Pretty much.
And the concept of these yearly OS updates is now just becoming so bafflingly unspecific in terms of this. They're giving themselves legitimately 6 months to quote unquote release an entirely new version of the operating system. Baloney. That's not, it's just gonna be the same version of Android with a new number on it. This is what?
I mean, actually, I have to agree in some ways because, yes, the last few years, we've mentioned this on the podcast every time a new version of Android is released or a new version of iOS is released. It's basically just quality of life updates that have come every year for the past probably 3 years at least. There's been nothing, no major user side differences on any of these platforms, and that's fine. This one, actually, there are rumors that there will be some UI tweaks to it. It will be a little bit different, but it's not going to be anything major. It's not going to be like going from iOS 6 to iOS 7. That was huge difference in change, It's just going to be, nothing, like I said, nothing major. There are going to be some changes, but like Caleb said, there's not a lot of time here that they're giving themselves to do these. That being said, because they haven't made significant changes for multiple years, they probably have had people working on this specifically for at least a year. But I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of understand and don't hate the idea of moving the release further or earlier in the year, because this actually aligns very nicely with Google I/O, which is usually in June or May. And so they can announce or they can show off a lot of new features at Google I/O, and then a couple weeks later, the full ready-to-go version is just out instead of waiting 6 months and then get it. So I don't really hate that. And then it's also out before the new Pixel phones come out, presumably in August again, because that's what they did this year. So then the new Pixel phone will actually come out with the new version of Android, whereas that didn't happen this year. So I don't hate it. It's just interesting. There are a couple new features that some people have found in this developer preview already. The biggest one to me is basically you can use the Pixel photo, what do they call it? Photo picker, which like developers can put this in. There's a new API that developers can use the Pixel photo picker in their apps. If like you have an app that wants to upload a photo or something like that, you can make it so it only selects or has access to 1 or 2 or however many photos you want to give it to, instead of access to the whole photo library. And this is something that's been on iOS for a couple years. It is really nice if there's an app that you don't really want to have access to all of your photos, you can just go in and select, okay, they can have this photo and this photo. And that's fine. That's all they need. Like if it's an app that requires some sort of profile picture, all you want is is just the picture to go up. That's all you can give them. That's nice. So that's the main thing so far in this preview that's changed. Again, nothing major. And it's, like I said, the first developer preview. Usually bigger changes happen in the developer preview 2, which is expected sometime next month. And what I understand, or from what I understand, the first public beta will come out probably at earliest January, maybe not till February. And I wouldn't recommend doing any of the developer previews on your own phone. I would, if you're going to do any of the previews, do the beta previews. And even then, let them come out for a couple weeks. Let other people test it first before you put it on your phone, because there could be bugs that just make major issues happen and your phone obviously all of a sudden just doesn't work. But yeah, Android 16 is now available to test out, and mostly, again, for developers, if they can start updating their apps to, put these little features in there and make it so it'll work with Android 16 when it is available in Q2 of 2025.
Sweet. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue. We got some general tech news. The ROG Phone 9.
Yes, listener. Now, we do tend to always mention the ROG phones because they are just so interesting. Usually, it's because of the specs that are involved in these phones are just top of the line, crazy, because this is a gaming phone. And there's the ROG Phone 9 and the ROG Phone 9 Pro. Specs across these phones are very similar, actually. Basically, the only difference is going to be the amount of RAM that's available on the Pro is a little higher. The amount of storage is a little higher on the Pro. And that's basically it from like just looking at these specs. There's really not that big a difference here. But the biggest thing that I want to mention about the ROG Phone 9 Pro is it only comes in black. The regular one comes in black or white. But the Pro has that little dot matrix display on the back. So if it's not on, it just looks like a normal back of the phone, matte black finish. And the regular ROG Phone 9 does have that as well, but it's not nearly as cool as what's on the Pro. Because on the Pro, it has built-in games that you can play on the back of the phone. And you can use the little air triggers on the side of the phone to play these games. Like it's basically got, they're not titled what you would expect them to be because of, trademarks and whatnot. But there's basically a game that's like Brick Breaker. There's Space Invaders is on there. Different little games like that you would expect to basically like your old Atari games, because that's really all you can do on a dot matrix type screen. But it's fantastic, and I absolutely love that. So if you have been into these ROG phones in the past and you're looking to upgrade, might I suggest the 9 Pro just for the back display? Because it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And I really, 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 really hope that sometime in the near future, this is part of a Doom segment because I want someone to put Doom on that back display.
He's calling it here. Oh,
I
man.
want it to happen. I think it would be fantastic.
24 gigs of RAM. Phone. Like, I'm looking at it right here and I'm like, that is like, of course, I'm like, yeah, I want it, but I'm not going to pay $1,500. 16 or oh wow.
Yeah, so I will mention the price. So the ROG Phone 9 starts at $1,000. The Phone 9 Pro starts at $1,200. And then there's another version that I didn't know about. The ROG Phone 9 Pro Edition, because Apple had to make Edition a type of version, will cost $1,500. It says it comes with an AeroActive Cooler X Pro, basically add-on to make it's a fan, more or less.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's pretty awesome that the back of the phone, you can play games on it. It's great.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Just, oh, look at that thing. Sorry, I'm just looking at this. I'm like, wow. It's amazing.
It's a good looking phone too. Not
It
gonna
is.
lie.
It looks cool. All right, the next the next thing on our list here is about a company called Yahoo.
Yes, thank you. That was okay. Listen, when I
welcome.
typed in to our doc that we have about what news we're going to talk about, all I typed in was what Wes just said, Yahoo, with a bunch of O's at the end of it, really hoping that he would say it just like that. Because if by chance, listener, you happen to be in the same age range as us, you remember commercials that said, put out by Yahoo, that's how they ended. That was their little trademark sound that they had. And it was fantastic. That was really the only good thing about Yahoo. Speaking of the only good thing from Yahoo being the sound, this is also not one of them. Yahoo, you probably haven't heard Yahoo in the news for the last few years because there's really nothing relevant to talk about with Yahoo in the news other than the fact that they are hemorrhaging money like crazy because I don't know why they're still around, but they have decided to make an Android launcher.
Oh.
So just in case, listener, you're on an Android phone, you don't like the stock launcher, like the user experience that's on your phone. Say you have a Samsung, because I understand that you don't like the UI there because it's awful. You want to change it to something else, and for some reason you don't want to use other reliable developers to make a launcher for you. You now have the option of using Yahoo. Just based on quick reviews of it, it is really buggy and underdeveloped and just not very good. So there's that. There's also apparently trending news page right on one of the home screens. Some basic customization options, nothing major. I don't. This is just an interesting thing for Yahoo to get into. Listener, if you're listening to us and you're too young and you're like, what even is Yahoo? Go to Google. Don't go to Yahoo. Go to Google and search for Yahoo and just maybe look at the Wikipedia version of Yahoo. Don't go to Yahoo's page, because you might get a virus. It used to be a search engine. It was what Google was or is now. Like, it was really popular, and it had email. They had like a news website. They had a bunch of different stuff. Like, my very first email was a Yahoo email address. Thank goodness I haven't used that in 20 plus years, because they've been hacked multiple times and lost so much data, customer data, over the years. That's probably where you've heard about them in the news recently, is that. So I would not recommend downloading the Yahoo Android launcher onto your device, because it's Yahoo. They should have died 15 years ago.
You know what? I'm just Googling Yahoo. Well, okay, let's be honest. I'm on Wikipedia, not Google. But I'm just looking at Yahoo and realizing that they actually kind of did die 7 years ago. So in 2017, they declared bankruptcy, which
Yeah.
I knew happened.
Yeah.
And I thought that they had just, kind of done the typical bankruptcy thing where they divest a bunch of stuff in order to pay off debtors, and then they reform under a new management and stuff like that. But actually what happened was Verizon bought them.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember
Not
that.
not the whole thing. They purchased core assets of
Yeah.
Yahoo, meaning stuff
Yeah.
like branding and technology, but not like the whole company. And then merged
that makes
them
a
with
whole lot of
AOL.
sense. Oh, I do remember
So-
that, and this actually makes a whole lot of sense because in the past 6 months or a year or so, Verizon's also had some data breaches. That's just the Yahoo technology right there.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, what must it be like to say you're an employee of Yahoo? But I think that it's basically you're just an employee of Verizon. And
Well, I was looking even further than that, and it says current stakeholders of 90% of Yahoo is Apollo Global Management. Back in 2021, Apollo Global Management bought 90% of Yahoo. Verizon
Yep.
still owns 10%, but I was just kind of looking to see what they were, because I was like, what would this company, why would they want a Yahoo thingy? Like, what?
yeah, well, so they took like the Yahoo core stuff, merged it with AOL, rebranded it as Oath Incorporated, and then changed it to Verizon Media. And then that sat around until 2021 when this buyout happened, and then
Yeah.
it changed back to Yahoo. But it's just branding, and technically they have stuff like CompuServe, TechCrunch, Engadget. All of these things fall under this umbrella right here, along with AOL and Yahoo and Netscape.
Yeah.
Like, Netscape is a brand that they own.
Wow.
In fact, wow, are they doing anything like notable with Netscape? No, it's still dead.
Jeez. Talk about
Oh man,
nostalgia
wild.
companies there.
That's amazing.
Wow. Anywho, that is crazy. Anyway, so yeah, let's not recommend that Yahoo launcher there.
Yeah.
All right, well, look at this here. It looks like that was the last thing that we have to talk about this week, unless, Landon, you do have one more thing for us.
Actually, you know what? I do want to mention something. This doesn't need the air horn or anything like that. But going back to the beginning of the podcast, buying gifts and whatnot, I just want to mention that it is okay to ask somebody what they want.
There
You
go.
don't have to
Yes.
surprise somebody every time you buy them a gift. That is nice sometimes. It can be helpful, or it can be, a good experience, not knowing what you're opening. That's kind of cool. But you also can ask the person, what do you want? You can even ask, okay, here's a list, or they can give you a list of like 3 or 4 or 5 different items, and you can pick one. That's how the surprise can be. It's like they don't know which one of the gifts you're going to give them. But it is okay to ask the person what they want. That
Yep.
makes it a little bit easier, especially for the tech person that who knows what they want, Ask them. It is okay to do that. You're not going to be cursed if you ask somebody what they want for Christmas or their birthday or whatever the occasion is.
Yep.
Agreed.
Solid advice. We honestly probably should have said that at the beginning of the episode. You made it this far, listener. Good job.
I did think about that earlier. It's just we just kept talking about other stuff and it left my brain.
And then came back. Awesome. Well, dear listener, I hope you got something from this episode. If you wanted us to talk about anything, you can get a hold of us on our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. You can check out all the cool videos that are over on YouTube at our YouTube channel, Calling All Platforms, over there. Because, that it might be updated once or twice in 5 years. But
Yeah,
hey,
we'll see.
we'll see. Maybe we'll figure it out. Anyway, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.